The human ship Odyssey descended slowly through the purple and gold clouds of Eloria. Its sleek metal frame reflected the shifting light, while the soft hum of its engines blended with the strange sounds of the planet below. From orbit, Eloria looked calm and beautiful, a world of floating forests, sparkling rivers, and cities that seemed to rise and shimmer from the ground itself. Yet as the ship touched down on the landing platform, the crew felt the weight of the unknown pressing in. Lyra stepped onto the platform, her boots clicking against the smooth surface. She inhaled the air and felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. Eloria was nothing like any planet she had studied. The sky had colors that changed as the sun moved, clouds that glowed faintly with light, and a gentle breeze that carried a scent she could not name. She looked around at the aliens, walking past, their long limbs moving gracefully, their eyes large and bright with curiosity. They moved in groups, talking softly with each other, but when their gazes passed over her, they seemed to see nothing. Lyra had expected curiosity, maybe even awe, but the alien males ignored her completely. They glanced at her as if she were part of the scenery, not someone who had traveled across the stars. Some were carrying instruments, some were performing elaborate greetings with other members of their species, and some just walked silently with purpose. Lyra tried to catch the eye of one, but each one looked away, disinterested. She frowned slightly but did not let it discourage her. She was used to being underestimated. Humans often were. Commander Jarek observed her quietly from the observation deck of the Odyssey. He had seen humans arrive on new worlds before, but he had never seen one react like Lyra. Most humans would be anxious, excited, or impatient, but she was calm, moving with purpose and curiosity. Jarek understood that this calm attention was rare. He knew humans were often overlooked, underestimated, even dismissed by other species, and he knew that gave them an advantage. They could watch, learn, and act in ways that others did not expect. As Lyra walked through the landing zone, she took in the details of the city. The buildings were tall and smooth, made of materials that seemed to pulse with a faint light from inside. Bridges arched over canals filled with water that glowed softly, reflecting the strange colors of the sky. Floating platforms carried creatures from one level to another, and small drones moved through the air with careful precision. Everything seemed to be designed for efficiency and elegance, but it also carried a sense of beauty and care that was rare in the galaxy. Lyra paused at a plaza where a group of aliens performed some kind of greeting ritual. They waved their hands, in slow, fluid motions, making shapes that seemed to shimmer in the light. She watched carefully, noting the patterns and sequences, trying to understand what it meant. The alien males around her participated with pride and confidence, yet none of them looked at her directly. Their attention was reserved for each other, for the rituals, and for the display of skill. She realized that her presence was not part of their world. They did not see her as an equal, nor did they acknowledge her intelligence or skill. Jarek made his way down to meet her. His footsteps were quiet, but they carried a sense of authority and calm confidence. When he reached the plaza, he did not look at the aliens performing their ritual. He looked at Lyra. His eyes met hers with a kind of recognition that surprised her. She had been ignored for so long, assumed to be irrelevant or unworthy of notice, that someone seeing her clearly felt almost shocking. Jarek smiled, and it was not a smile of condescension or judgment. It was a smile of understanding, of respect, and it made her stand a little taller. He spoke first, his voice soft but firm. "Lyra, it looks like we have a lot to explore here." She nodded, feeling a strange sense of relief that someone, not just anyone but a human, was paying attention to her, valuing her presence. The aliens around them continued their ritual, their eyes gliding past her, but she no longer felt ignored. She had an ally, and that mattered more than anything else in this unfamiliar world. Lyra and Jarek began to move through the city, observing, taking notes, and quietly learning about Eloria. Lyra noticed the careful ways the aliens moved, their focus on beauty and tradition, and how rigid their attention could be. Even in their brilliance, they missed details, overlooked small signs of change, and ignored outsiders. She realized that humans had a unique strength, the ability to see what others ignored, to notice patterns, and to act where others hesitated. The first day passed slowly, filled with wonder and quiet observation. Lyra felt her excitement growing. She had expected to be overlooked, and she had been, but she had also discovered something new. Humans were underestimated here, but that gave them power. They were unseen, unnoticed, and therefore free to move in ways the aliens could not predict. She felt a surge of determination. She would learn, explore, and prove that humans had value, not through force but through intelligence, courage, and insight. As the sun set over the glowing city, Lyra stood on a balcony and looked out over the floating gardens, the soft rivers, and the alien towers. The sky shifted through colors she could not name, and a gentle wind brushed her hair. Somewhere among the shadows, she sensed Jarek watching, guiding, and protecting her. For the first time on this strange world, she did not feel invisible. She felt seen, recognized, and ready. The adventure of Eloria had only just begun, and she knew that humans had a place here, even if the aliens did not yet realize it. The next morning, Lyra woke early to the soft light of Eloria. The sky glowed with shades of pink and gold, and the floating gardens above the city swayed gently in the breeze. Birds, or creatures that looked like birds but shimmered with strange colors, flew in slow arcs through the air. She felt a thrill of excitement as she stepped out of her quarters. This world was alive in ways humans had never imagined. Jarek was already waiting in the main hall of the Odyssey. His posture was calm, confident, and purposeful, as if he had been studying this planet for years instead of hours. "Ready for another day of discovery?" he asked. Lyra smiled and nodded. She had never met a human who combined quiet intelligence with confidence in such a natural way. While most humans would have rushed to explore without thought, Jarek observed first, understanding the importance of patience. They stepped into the city together, moving along streets lined with smooth, reflective stone. The air was filled with faint music created by alien instruments, and creatures that floated and shimmered passed gracefully between the buildings. Lyra noticed the aliens gathering in small groups, observing them from a distance. The alien males continued to ignore her, still focused on their own displays and rituals, but this time she did not feel small or invisible. With Jarek at her side, she felt strong and capable. Their first stop was a marketplace, filled with floating stalls and vendors who displayed objects that defied human understanding. Gems that seemed to glow from within, fabrics that shimmered and changed color, with movement, and mechanical devices that hovered and shifted in midair. Lyra moved carefully, her eyes scanning every detail. She noticed patterns in the way the aliens interacted with the objects, subtle movements and signals that showed skill and knowledge. Most of the alien males were proud and self-important, but they lacked the curiosity to notice new things. Jarek watched her closely, saying nothing at first. He knew humans had an ability to observe and adapt, and he wanted Lyra to discover it herself. "Notice how they handle the crystals," he asked quietly. "They follow tradition, not creativity. There is value in tradition, but it also limits them." Lyra nodded, understanding immediately. Where the aliens saw rules, she saw patterns. Where they saw rituals, she saw opportunities. Humans could think differently, and that difference could make all the difference on a planet like this. As they walked deeper into the market, a small commotion erupted near one of the floating stalls. A minor malfunction in one of the levitating machines sent objects spinning in the air. The aliens froze, unsure how to respond. Lyra instinctively stepped forward, reaching out with careful movements to steady the device. She adjusted the controls, her fingers moving quickly but precisely, and the machine stabilized. The vendor looked at her with surprise, muttering something in a language Lyra could not fully understand, but the meaning was clear. Humans had skills that aliens did not. Jarek smiled quietly, watching her in action. It was not just her technical skill that impressed him. It was her courage to act when others hesitated. Humans were often underestimated in the galaxy, seen as physically weaker or less disciplined, but their ingenuity and courage gave them unique strength. Lyra was living proof of that. He felt a quiet sense of pride, knowing that her presence here could change how aliens saw humanity. After the incident, they continued exploring. They came across a garden that floated high above the city, suspended by some unseen force. Strange plants with glowing leaves and translucent flowers swayed gently in the breeze. Lyra knelt to study them, fascinated by their structure and subtle energy. She noticed how the plants responded to touch and movement, a delicate balance that the aliens ignored as unimportant. Humans could see detail, analyze patterns, and make decisions in ways that the aliens did not. As the day passed, Lyra and Jarek spoke quietly about the planet, the culture, and the creatures they encountered. Lyra shared her observations and theories, and Jarek listened, occasionally pointing out patterns or asking questions that challenged her understanding. They worked like a team, complementing each other's strengths. The alien males passed by them repeatedly, oblivious to their conversation and collaboration. They were focused on appearances, on rituals, on pride, while Lyra and Jarek explored, learned, and adapted. By evening, Lyra felt a sense of accomplishment. She had seen the city, learned about its inhabitants, and discovered strengths in herself that she had not realized before. Humans were underestimated, yes, but that did not matter. Their value was in their creativity, courage, and intelligence. Jarek's quiet confidence made her feel supported and understood. For the first time on Eloria, she felt that she was not just a visitor, but a participant in the unfolding story of the planet. As the sun set, painting the sky with shades of violet and gold, Lyra and Jarek stood on a high balcony overlooking the city. The glowing canals reflected the sky's colors, and the floating gardens swayed gently above the buildings. Lyra felt a thrill of anticipation. This world was full of challenges and mysteries, and humans had a place here that no one had expected. With courage, intelligence, and teamwork, she and Jarek could navigate this alien society and leave a mark. The adventure had just begun, and she was ready to prove that humans, though underestimated, were capable of extraordinary things. The following morning, Lyra and Jarek set out to explore a part of the city they had not yet seen. The streets here were narrower, winding between taller, more intricate buildings, their surfaces covered in patterns that shimmered faintly with color. The air smelled of exotic flowers mixed with the faint metallic tang of machinery. Lyra's curiosity surged. Every corner, every shadow seemed to hold a secret, a story waiting to be discovered. As they moved through the narrow alleys, they noticed a group of alien children playing with floating spheres that glowed softly in the air. The spheres twisted and changed color as the children manipulated them, creating shapes that hovered and moved without touching the ground. Lyra knelt to watch, fascinated by the way the children coordinated with each other. "They are learning control and precision," she whispered to Jarek. "But they are limited by what they are taught. They rarely experiment outside of the expected patterns." Jarek nodded. "Humans think differently," he said. "We explore, we fail, we try again. That is something many species cannot understand. It can make all the difference." His voice carried calm assurance, the kind that inspired confidence. Lyra felt a warmth in that moment, a sense of partnership that was rare on distant worlds. Together they could notice things the aliens did not, understand what was hidden beneath appearances, and act in ways others might never consider. They continued walking, and soon they entered a plaza filled with floating platforms and bridges that arched high above the ground. From a distance, the platforms looked like delicate sculptures perfectly balanced, but Lyra noticed small imperfections, slight wobbling, uneven energy flows that could cause instability. She pointed them out to Jarek quietly, who examined the patterns carefully. "Good eye," he said. "Most aliens would never see that. They assume perfection because it looks elegant." Lyra realized that this was exactly why humans could thrive in situations others might fail. Suddenly, a commotion erupted on one of the higher platforms. A mechanical drone had malfunctioned and was spinning out of control, its energy beams flickering dangerously. Alien males nearby panicked, stepping back and muttering to each other. Lyra's heart raced, but she did not hesitate. She quickly, climbed onto a smaller support platform and extended a stabilizing device from her toolkit. Jarek followed, supporting her and offering guidance. Together, they moved with precision and care. Lyra adjusted the drone's control circuits while Jarek calculated the energy flow needed to stabilize it. The device buzzed and sparkled, but they did not falter. Slowly, the drone stopped spinning, hovering steadily once more. The aliens watched in astonishment. None had dared to act, frozen by indecision or fear of failure. Lyra stepped back, catching her breath, and looked at Jarek. He nodded approvingly, not with arrogance but with quiet respect. She felt a surge of pride. Humans were underestimated, but in moments like this, their ingenuity and courage spoke louder than any display of tradition or ritual. After the incident, Lyra and Jarek moved to a nearby garden that floated high above the plaza. The garden's plants were unlike anything Lyra had seen before. Their leaves glowed faintly, their stems twisted in elegant spirals, and tiny lights hovered around them like fireflies. She knelt to study a cluster of flowers, touching their soft petals and feeling the subtle energy they radiated. Jarek stood nearby, observing quietly, offering advice when needed but letting her explore. It was clear that he trusted her judgment and valued her observations. As they worked, a group of alien females approached, their expressions curious but cautious. Unlike the males, they showed interest in Lyra's actions, asking questions about her methods and the tools she used. Lyra explained patiently, demonstrating the techniques that had stabilized the drone. The females watched closely, nodding in understanding and appreciation. Lyra realized that not all attention on Aloria was tied to tradition or status. Some were open to learning and adapting. Humans, when noticed, could inspire change simply by showing courage and intelligence. The day passed quickly as they explored, experimented, and observed. Lyra and Jarek discovered patterns in the city's energy systems, learned how floating structures were stabilized, and recorded notes about the unusual flora. With each observation, Lyra felt more confident. She understood that humans had unique strengths, the ability to adapt, to innovate, and to act decisively when others hesitated. Jarek's steady presence amplified her confidence, giving her courage she did not realize she possessed. By evening, the sky was painted in shades of violet and orange, and the floating gardens shimmered softly in the fading light. Lyra and Jarek stood on a high platform overlooking the city that had once seemed so mysterious and indifferent. She felt a deep sense of accomplishment and belonging. The aliens may have ignored her at first, but humans had a way of turning attention into influence, observation into understanding, and courage into respect. With Jarek by her side, she knew they could face any challenge Aloria might present. As the stars began to appear in the sky, Lyra felt a quiet determination. Humans were underestimated, yes, but that was precisely their strength. They could act where others hesitated, see where others overlooked, and achieve what others thought impossible. She glanced at Jarek, who returned her look with calm assurance, and she knew that together they would make their mark on Aloria, and perhaps on the galaxy itself. The adventure was far from over, but for the first time she felt truly ready. The morning air on Aloria was crisp and filled with the faint hum of energy from the floating cities above. Lyra and Jarek were already on the upper terraces, observing the intricate bridges and platforms that connected the tallest towers. The city was alive with movement, alien citizens walking gracefully along narrow paths, drones hovering silently, and energy currents flowing in patterns that seemed almost like music. Lyra was fascinated, but a quiet tension hung in the air. Something was off. As they moved closer to the center of the city, an alarm echoed through the sky. The soft hum of energy shifted into a sharp warning tone. Lyra's heart quickened. Something was happening, and from the looks of the panicked faces around her, it was serious. Alien males hurried past, muttering in their strange language, their eyes wide with fear. Yet they seemed unsure of what to do. They were experts at their own rituals and displays, but this sudden challenge was unfamiliar. Jarek glanced at Lyra. "Stay close. Watch carefully and be ready to act." he said calmly. His tone had a steadiness that reassured her, even as chaos spread around them. Lyra nodded, gripping her toolkit tightly. Humans were often underestimated, but situations like this were where their training, observation, and courage could shine. They reached a large open plaza where a floating energy core, the heart of the city's power, had begun to flicker and sputter. Sparks of blue and white energy shot outward, sending small tremors through the surrounding buildings. Alien engineers ran toward the core, but they froze when the unstable currents grew too strong. Some hovered back in fear, while others tried to stabilize it with devices that were ineffective. Lyra could see that panic and hesitation were making the situation worse. Without a moment's hesitation, Jarek stepped forward, analyzing the energy patterns. Lyra, we need to redirect the flow and stabilize the core. Follow my lead, he said. She nodded, trusting him completely. Together they approached the edge of the core, careful to avoid the sparks and surging energy. Lyra extended a stabilizing module from her toolkit, while Jarek calculated the precise adjustments needed to balance the flow. Their movements were quick but deliberate, synchronized without the need for words. The alien engineers watched in astonishment as humans worked with a combination of logic, courage, and intuition. The core pulsed erratically, but Lyra and Jarek adjusted the energy flow with careful timing, their actions complementing each other perfectly. Sparks subsided, and the core slowly stabilized, humming with a steady glow. Lyra exhaled deeply, her hands shaking slightly from adrenaline, but the relief was immediate. The crisis was under control. The crowd of aliens around them remained silent for a moment, then slowly began to whisper in admiration. They had never seen anyone act so decisively in a moment of danger. The alien males who had ignored Lyra before now looked at her with a mixture of surprise and curiosity. It was not physical strength or status that had saved the day. It was intelligence, observation, and courage. Humans, long underestimated, had proven their worth in a way the aliens could not ignore. Jarek stepped back and smiled at Lyra. You did well, he said softly. That core could have caused serious damage if we had hesitated. Humans may be underestimated, but that is often our advantage. We act when others are unsure, and we see solutions others miss. Lyra felt a surge of pride. She had been ignored at first, underestimated for her appearance and species, but in this moment, she realized her true potential. As the adrenaline faded, Lyra and Jarek helped the alien engineers make minor adjustments to the core, ensuring it would remain stable. The engineers followed their instructions carefully, still amazed by the humans' understanding and quick thinking. Some of the alien females approached Lyra, asking questions about the stabilizing device she had used. Lyra explained patiently, demonstrating how humans combined creativity with precision. The aliens listened intently, absorbing knowledge that they had never considered before. By the time the sun began to set, the plaza was calm again. The energy core glowed steadily, and the city resumed its normal rhythm. Lyra and Jarek stood, side by side, looking at the structures above and below them. She realized that humans had a unique ability to act where others hesitated, to notice what others overlooked, and to solve problems with courage and logic. The aliens had strength and elegance, yes, but humans had adaptability, creativity, and boldness. As the sky turned shades of violet and gold, Lyra felt a new confidence growing inside her. The city she had once thought indifferent and intimidating now seemed full of opportunities. With Jarek by her side, she knew that humans could make a real difference here. They were underestimated, yes, but that gave them freedom and power in unexpected ways. She looked at Jarek, who gave her a calm, encouraging smile, and she knew that together they could face any challenge Aloria might throw at them. For the first time, Lyra felt not just accepted, but truly capable. Humans were not invisible, not weak, not irrelevant. They were resourceful, brave, and clever, and in moments of crisis, their qualities shone brighter than anything else. Aloria had tested them, and they had proven that humans could meet danger head-on, think clearly, and act decisively. The adventure was only beginning, but Lyra knew that she and Jarek were ready for whatever came next. The morning sun rose slowly over Eloria, casting golden light across the floating gardens and tall towers. Lyra and Jarek moved through the city with a quiet confidence. The events of the previous day had left a mark. Aliens who had once ignored them now watched with interest, their eyes curious and cautious. For the first time, Lyra felt a sense of respect emanating from the inhabitants around her. Not the polite attention of strangers, but genuine interest. As they walked along a narrow bridge connecting two towers, Lyra noticed the delicate patterns etched into the stone surface. Small energy currents ran along the edges, and some of the symbols seemed to shift slightly as she watched. "Look at this," she said softly to Jarek. "These currents are designed to adapt to movement, but the aliens rarely notice when a pattern fails or drifts. Humans might see the problem and correct it." Jarek nodded, impressed by her observation. They reached a platform where children were practicing the floating spheres again. Today, the spheres moved faster and in more complex patterns. The children tried to keep up, but some struggled and let the spheres drift away. Lyra stepped forward and demonstrated a new technique, one that combined precision with creative movement. The children watched her intently, mimicking her motions and adjusting their approach. Jarek smiled, noticing how quickly the children adapted. Even the alien females, who often guided them, looked on with amazement. Lyra felt a sense of satisfaction. Teaching had always brought her joy, and seeing the children learn from her was empowering. It was a simple reminder that humans had value not because of strength or status, but because of creativity, understanding, and patience. The alien males still ignored her, but that no longer bothered her. Respect could not be demanded. It had to be earned through action and knowledge, and that was exactly what she was doing. Jarek led her toward the lower city, where the energy systems flowed in intricate networks beneath the streets. Here, the challenge was technical, but no less important. Energy conduits flickered and pulsed, and some minor malfunctions had already begun to appear due to the core instability from the previous day. Alien engineers moved carefully, but Lyra noticed that their approach was cautious and slow. They hesitated to take risks, even small ones, for fear of making mistakes. Lyra stepped forward, examining the conduits with careful hands. She adjusted the flow slightly, balancing energy currents with a combination of instinct and precision. Jarek observed, providing guidance when needed, but mostly allowing her to act. Within minutes, the system stabilized, and the engineers around them watched. In awe, one of the alien females approached, her expression filled with admiration. "You understand the energy in ways we rarely see," she said softly. Lyra smiled, knowing her skills and courage were finally being recognized. As the day passed, Lyra and Jarek explored more of the city, observing patterns and making small improvements where needed. Each action, no matter how simple, drew attention. The alien males who had previously ignored Lyra began to glance her way, curiosity breaking through their previous indifference. They could not deny the results. Humans could solve problems with clarity and creativity, and their courage inspired confidence in others. Lyra realized that influence came not from intimidation or tradition, but from action and understanding. By late afternoon, they reached a terrace overlooking the city's central plaza. From this height, the floating gardens, towers, and bridges looked like a carefully designed work of art. Lyra felt a profound sense of accomplishment. Humans were underestimated, yes, but that underestimation gave them freedom. They could act where others hesitated, notice what others overlooked, and bring solutions that no one else had imagined. With Jarek by her side, she felt unstoppable. As they rested, Lyra reflected on her growing bond with Jarek. They moved and thought as a team, each complementing the other's strengths. He observed and calculated, while she acted with intuition and creativity. Together they were more than the sum of their parts, and the aliens could see it. Slowly, respect began to shift. The alien males could no longer ignore her. Her intelligence, courage, and skill had proven undeniable. Lyra realized that she had the power to make her own choices, and that Jarek through respect and partnership, had become someone she could trust implicitly. Evening arrived, painting the sky with violet and gold. The city glowed softly, reflecting the shifting light. Lyra and Jarek stood side by side, watching as the aliens moved gracefully through their routines. The city no longer seemed indifferent to them. Humans were no longer invisible. They had earned attention, respect, and influence, not through force or display, but through action, intelligence, and courage. Lyra felt a deep sense of fulfillment. She looked at Jarek, who returned her gaze with calm encouragement. She knew that their partnership was more than convenience. It was mutual trust and respect. The adventure on Eloria had already begun to change them both, and she understood that this journey would shape not only their futures but the way humans were seen on this distant world. With courage, intelligence, and understanding, they could navigate challenges, inspire others, and leave a mark that would be remembered for generations. Lyra smiled quietly, feeling the thrill of possibility. Humans had been underestimated for centuries, yet in moments of challenge and discovery, their unique qualities shone brighter than anything else. Jarek's steady presence beside her reminded her that partnership was as important as individual strength. Together they had begun to show Eloria, and perhaps the galaxy, that humans, though once overlooked, had courage, ingenuity, and heart enough to change the course of history. The next day dawned with a gentle glow, painting Eloria's floating gardens in shades of gold and soft green. Lyra and Jarek walked through the city's central district, their movements calm but purposeful. Word of their actions had spread, quickly. Aliens who had once ignored humans now watched curiously, and some whispered among themselves, wondering how such small beings could accomplish what others had failed to do. However, not all the attention was welcome. In the city's upper council chambers, a group of senior alien leaders gathered, their expressions filled with concern. They had observed the humans' influence, the way Lyra and Jarek moved among the citizens and solved problems the aliens had hesitated to address. Some of the leaders saw this as a challenge to tradition, a disruption to the carefully maintained order. They had not welcomed outsiders meddling in their ways, and now humans were gaining admiration and trust from those below. Lyra sensed the tension before she even entered the council chambers. Jarek walked beside her with quiet confidence, as if he understood that confrontation could come but was not afraid. The doors opened, revealing a semicircle of alien leaders seated on elevated platforms. Their eyes, sharp and calculating, regarded the humans with suspicion. Lyra felt a flicker of unease, but it was quickly replaced by determination. She had learned that respect came from action, understanding, and courage, not from fear or appearances. The council leader, an elder with elongated limbs and eyes that glimmered with intelligence, spoke first. "Humans, your presence here is unusual. You have acted in ways that disrupt our routines and influence our citizens. Explain why your interference should be tolerated." Lyra took a deep breath and stepped forward. "We do not wish to disrupt," she said clearly. "We are here to learn, observe, and help when we can. Our actions are not meant to replace your traditions, but to assist when needed." Jarek added, his voice calm and firm. "Humans have different ways of seeing problems. We notice patterns that others may overlook. We act when hesitation could cause harm. Our goal is not to dominate or replace, but to complement." He gestured to the energy core in the central plaza and the stabilized systems they had improved. Yesterday, the core could have caused serious damage. We helped prevent it. The city benefited because we acted together. The council members murmured among themselves. Some seemed impressed, while others remained skeptical. One of the alien males leaned forward, his voice sharp. "Your methods are different. You take risks. How can we trust that your interventions will not cause greater problems?" Lyra met his gaze steadily. "Every action carries risk," she said. "But hesitation can be riskier. Humans act with observation, calculation, and care. We do not act recklessly. We learn quickly, adapt, and work with others to ensure success." Another leader, a female with glowing markings along her arms, spoke softly but firmly. You have shown courage and skill, yet you are outsiders. How can we know your values align with ours? Lyra's eyes met hers and she responded honestly. We respect your culture and your traditions. We are not here to change them, only to assist. Trust is earned through action, not words. You have seen what we can do. Let that guide your judgment. Jarek stepped forward again. Humans have always been underestimated, he said. But that does not mean we are incapable. When others doubt, we see opportunity. When others hesitate, we act. Our values, courage, creativity, intelligence are universal. We seek partnership, not dominance. Silence filled the chamber for a long moment. The leaders exchanged glances, some nodding slowly, others still unsure. Lyra could feel the weight of their scrutiny, but she did not waver. She had learned that confidence and clarity often spoke louder than any plea for approval. Slowly, the council leader inclined his head. You have demonstrated skill, courage, and respect, he said. Perhaps there is value in learning from humans as much as humans learn from us. We will allow your continued presence and guidance, but always with respect for our traditions. Lyra felt a surge of relief and pride. It was not a victory of dominance, but a recognition of ability and integrity. Jarek placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder, and she felt a quiet bond of partnership strengthen. Humans were still outsiders, yes, but their actions had earned trust. The alien males who had once ignored her now looked with cautious respect, while the citizens around them watched with renewed curiosity. The day ended with a sense of calm accomplishment. Lyra and Jarek moved through the city, observing its rhythms and making small improvements where needed. Each action reinforced the lesson they had learned. Humans, though underestimated, had the ability to earn respect through intelligence, courage, and integrity. The council's acceptance was proof that actions spoke louder than appearances, and that true influence came from doing rather than demanding. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in violet and gold, Lyra and Jarek stood on a high terrace overlooking the city. The lights of the floating gardens reflected on the water below, and the citizens moved gracefully through their routines. Lyra realized that humans had a unique place in this world. They could act decisively, think creatively, and inspire respect, not through force but through courage and understanding. With Jarek by her side, she knew they could face any challenge ahead, shaping their own path and proving that humans, though often overlooked, were capable of extraordinary achievements. The city of Eloria was quiet in the early morning light. Floating gardens swayed gently above the towers, and the soft hum of energy from the city's systems created a rhythm that was almost musical. Lyra walked alongside Jarek, their steps in perfect sync. The events of the past days had changed the city, and they could feel it. Humans were no longer invisible here. Their courage, intelligence, and skill had left an impression that could not be ignored. Lyra glanced at the citizens moving through the streets. Some stopped to watch her and Jarek, curiosity bright in their eyes. The alien males who had once ignored her now observed her carefully, a mixture of respect and wonder in their expressions. Lyra smiled quietly. She realized that being underestimated had been an advantage. Humans had freedom to act, think, and solve problems without interference. Their actions, guided by courage and intelligence, had proven their worth. As they approached the city's central plaza, a ceremony was being prepared. The council had invited Lyra and Jarek to participate, an unusual honor for outsiders. Banners of glowing energy floated above the square, and citizens gathered in anticipation. Lyra felt a mix of pride and humility. This recognition was not a reward for dominance, but an acknowledgement of what humans could achieve through courage, creativity, and understanding. The council leader stepped forward and spoke to the assembly. Humans have shown us skills and qualities that are rare, even among our own people, he said. They have acted decisively in times of danger, solved problems that others hesitated to face, and inspired our citizens through courage and intelligence. They have earned our trust and respect. Lyra felt a rush of warmth. The council's words confirmed what she had already learned. Humans, though underestimated, could earn recognition through action and integrity. Jarek stood beside her, calm and steady. He had earned respect not just through skill, but through partnership. Lyra realized that their bond had grown stronger with each challenge, each decision, each moment of courage. Humans thrived not just because of individual ability, but because of teamwork, trust, and understanding. In this alien world, their partnership had become a model for what cooperation could achieve. The council then turned to Lyra. "You have faced doubt, been overlooked, and yet you persevered," the leader said. "Now you have the choice to decide your path. How will you continue among us?" Lyra looked at the faces around her, the citizens, the engineers, the children she had taught, and the alien females who had shown her curiosity and respect. She thought of the adventures she had shared with Jarek, the crises they had faced, and the courage they had shown together. Her eyes met Jarek's, and she felt a quiet certainty. She did not choose him for display, for status, or for appearance. She chose him because of trust, partnership, and respect. He had seen her for who she truly was, valued her skills and intelligence, and worked alongside her as an equal. That bond, forged through experience and courage, was stronger than any ritual or tradition in the alien world. When she spoke, her voice was steady. "I choose to continue this journey with Jarek," she said. "Not for power or recognition, but for partnership. Together we can learn, explore, and contribute to this world and perhaps many others." A hush fell over the plaza, then a wave of murmurs and whispers spread. The council nodded, and the citizens' expressions shifted from surprise to approval. Respect and admiration were clear in their eyes. Jarek placed a hand lightly on her shoulder, a quiet gesture of encouragement and shared purpose. Lyra felt a deep sense of fulfillment. Humans had been underestimated for centuries, yet here, on a distant world, their courage, intelligence, and partnership had made a difference. They had shown that strength was not always measured by power or appearance, but by the ability to act decisively, think creatively, and work together with trust and understanding. The ceremony concluded with soft music and floating lights illuminating the plaza. Lyra and Jarek walked through the crowds, acknowledging the citizens who greeted them with nods and smiles. The alien males who had once passed her by now observed her with genuine respect. She realized that humans could inspire change simply by acting with courage and intelligence, proving that underestimated beings could achieve extraordinary things. The sun set over the city, casting shades of violet and gold across the floating gardens. Lyra and Jarek stood on a high terrace, looking out over Eloria. The city was alive, full of potential and promise. Lyra felt a thrill of anticipation for the future. Humans had found their place here, not through force, but through courage, creativity, and understanding. Together, she and Jarek had proven that humans once overlooked could stand as equals, inspire respect, and shape the course of a world. Lyra smiled quietly, knowing that their adventure was only beginning. The galaxy was vast, full of challenges and mysteries, but humans had shown that their ingenuity, courage, and partnership could overcome obstacles that others might fear. Eloria had been a test, and they had passed, not because they were the strongest, but because they were clever, brave, and true to themselves. Together they would continue to explore, inspire, and leave a mark that would be remembered for generations.